Through all these activities, we've been able to spread economic empowerment in terms of the ownership and control of a number of companies.
But does owning a piece of paper which goes up in value over the course of weeks empower anybody?
It creates wealth.
How does it do that?
It creates wealth in that if you own that piece of paper, you can encash it and have some money and be able to either educate your children, that is empowerment, be able to purchase a house, that is empowerment.
But you can't, the sums we're talking about with the people who are involved who need to be empowered don't have sufficient numbers of pieces of paper to cash them in and buy a house, do they?
Yeah, well, I think it goes some way to make someone feel that they have some money that they can do things with, which they would ordinarily not have had in the past.
Pinder Mahdi is not convinced.
I mean, you know, I could enter into a deal with BBC where I personally end up being a 50% shareholder and being a billionaire, and I would say that this is good for the black masses, and I would be lying. You know, it's good for me, not for the black masses. And you see, that's the problem. The problem is that a whole lot of things have been happening which are good for individuals, you know, but they use the umbrella of black empowerment to legitimize their enrichment.
I'm rather critical of those who dismiss this project, these efforts that are being made, because they do not see immediate results.
Or because you and others are getting rich through them?
Well, I mean, they may well be doing so, but in the end, we would like to lead to a point where black people, collectively, have real economic muscle in this country. And that is the real import of the Black Empowerment Project.
While those arguments go on, the vast majority of the black population here is still waiting to be empowered, waiting for the promises the ANC made in 1994 to come good. And while there is no doubt that the poverty and the shack dwellings in a place like the Alexandra Township here weigh very heavily on the government's mind, its movement is restricted because every time it tries to expand black empowerment, whites in South Africa become agitated. This treasured antique gramophone player will be packed up very soon. Increasingly alarmed at the direction South Africa is taking, Mike Steenkamp and his partner Theoline will emigrate to Canada in January. Mike has a top job in banking, and although he says he supports black empowerment on the surface, the reality, he claims, is
creating positions without meaningful mandates, meaningful responsibility for profitability, a real responsibility for shareholders' returns.
How do you feel it affects you? Are you seeing the future, your career here in South Africa, as something with a definite ceiling on it?
I have a profound sense of that. You know, notwithstanding performance that far outweighs some of the tokenist appointments that have been made, one feels that you're getting monetary rewards, but the positional power is certainly not coming with it anymore.
This is sad, isn't it? Because you've said you do support black empowerment as a concept. Is there a sense in which you have maybe lost patience too early?
The sadness around it is that if one looks at Africa, one really hopes that it gets its act together and that South Africa doesn't follow the African model.
among those who have not got the option of leaving, a deeply disturbing sense of alienation is building up. Whites in Vredendorp are poor and bitter.
I'm a qualified bricklayer. I go into a place, you go look for a job, they don't want to give, I'm too white. You take a black guy, he's got no experience, he's got nothing, but he gets a job, I don't get a job. I mean, that's
answering. And you know, you can't get what you want. And it, you know, it pushes up your phone bill.
And you feel it's what did you say, Indians, coloreds and whites?
Yeah, that he's being, you know, whooped and given the boot.
But the voices here sound increasingly off the point. The most forceful complaints about empowerment are from black people who say it's not going far enough. And it is not just the poor who are saying that. It's now the wealthy too. People like Louis, who simply cannot reconcile the destination he's arrived at with the place he came from.
If we don't find ways of addressing the present imbalances and the poverty, lack of education we have in this country, I foresee chaos, complete chaos. And it's the kind of chaos that would have to spread throughout Africa, because we've become the last beacon of hope for the other countries outside our borders.
That report by Jeremy Vine. And tomorrow morning's Front